they're struggling to survive, so they're doing crime. You know, poverty is the number one reason for crime. You know what I mean? A lot of people, if they can't survive, if they can't go to work, if they can't get money on a legit basis, then they're going to do crime. That's just common sense. But, you know, when we talk and we deal with these legislators and, you know, the people in office, they always make it seem like it's more deeper than that. You know what I mean? They make it seem like, all right, well, you know, they're doing crime because they want to do crime, or they're doing crime and they should be held responsible. They should be held responsible, but we're trying to tell them to be safe on crime, not tough on crime. It's a difference. When you're tough on crime, that's just like me fighting a guy, right? And I punch him in his face, and he punched me in my face, so I just punch him in his face. I don't go to the cops. I don't go talk to nobody. I just, you know, it's basically like an eye for an eye, and that's how the criminal justice system is set up. They're really living by an eye for an eye. So, you know, when you poke his eye out, he poke your eye. And that's not a good way for us to, you know, change the law. That's not a good way for us to reduce the crime rate. A good way for us to reduce the crime rate is, yeah, you know, if we poke somebody in the eye, they should be held accountable for that. Maybe they should go to jail. But the thing is, what do you do when that person is getting out of jail? You know what I mean? You got to provide them with work. You got to, or at least you don't provide them with barriers that can stop them from getting work and stop them from being successful, because then they're not going to be successful. They're going to most likely go out into the same community we're in and, you know, do the same things that we're doing, and they're going to end up being locked back up. And that's why our prison population is overcrowded. You know, so a real obstacle that we deal with sometimes is like talking to certain people that are immune to seeing people that commit crimes, or don't even know people that commit crimes. It's a kind of obstacle for us to, you know, convince them that, yeah, you know, the crime could be changed by us just investing more in our communities and investing in things that can help people change their lives and seek employment and stuff like that. But it's not really that hard. I mean, it's common sense. But some people are so used to, you know, thinking that, you know, locking somebody up for 30 years can actually make a person change without the reentry part of it. So basically, we just got to reach out to people and, you know, talk to them about things that can actually change crime, and talk to them about different alternatives that can, you know, reduce crime, as far as like us investing in reentry programs to, you know, set people up while they're in jail, and then, you know, connect them to jobs and stuff like that. That's something so simple that can really reduce the crime rate.
I think also it's, in terms of how the community views us, is how the media shapes our stories. You know, what stories are being told, what's being put out there to the media. Because not enough real stories are being told. I'll give you an example. When I was first incarcerated, I was blessed to come into the circle of Dr. Matt Pillischer. For those of you who never heard the name, he's Tupac's stepfather. But he's also a noted black revolutionary, an African elder, and a teacher of young black men. He's been incarcerated since early 80s. And the reason he's always been incarcerated is because he's accused by the federal government of masterminding the escape of Assata Shakur. Does anybody know who she is? Assata Shakur, no? Whoever her name is, a fascinating story. Anyway, what he has literally done over the decades he's been in prison is teach and train hundreds, if not thousands, of young men to go back out in the community and do good work, myself included, and many more that I know of during the 12 years I worked with him. We have gone back in the community, started organizations, and we're doing good work. But this is not a story that the media would tell. The work that he is doing, and many political prisoners like him, many conscious brothers inside who are active inside in changing lives and sending changed people out, is not a story that is sexy. It's not a story that the media picks up on. Therefore, when many communities see ex-offenders, they see them in a certain way. And they mainly focus on the ones who are shooting people, selling drugs, and reoffending. The success stories, or not just the success stories, but the everyday fathers who are working, taking care of their kids, loving their wives, and being a good part of the community, that's not a story that's being pushed forward.
In regards to communities, what my observation is that, especially I'm gonna speak generally with black men, black communities, they are totally disarmed. They are socially, politically, economically disarmed. And see, once you strip a man of all confidence in himself, you come out with 1,000 programs, it ain't gonna work. I mean, you can program them to death. You know, they lack they have no confidence in the system. They don't believe it's going to change. They've seen it all their life. I remember when I was a child, we young. I was about 5 or 6 years old, and a police officer drove by. We kids, we waved, and cop yelled a racial slur at us. And this lady grabbed us and yelled at the cop, and some other adults came around, and some of the adults grabbed us, some of the men, said, "You don't wave at him." And he gave me a rock. He said, "Next time you see him, I'm gonna throw it." And that's how we were, you know, that's our relationship. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, and all this, you know, it's different when you're talking to somebody that comes out of that environment. Like, you know, a lot of stuff that they say, oh, we need programs, and we need... It's not that simple. Once you strip the man of all confidence, he doesn't feel he can protect his wife, he doesn't believe he can protect his children, provide for them adequately. It's a lot involved. So it's not merely just a program. You know, it's not that simple. So a lot of times when they talk program, they really need to go a little deeper. It's a vicious psychological trauma that's been passed down. You know, it's going to be hard to sell that, you know, the police can actually be good and do good when they're actually going to benefit the community. So it's a wall there. And we can talk around it, but it's there.
Speaking on what Tony was saying, at the Center for Returning Citizens, we have a 15-week workshop series. And we teach the workshop, and we think it's effective. It's effective for some people, not so much for others. You know, those who go through it, I mean, it's not a pass or fail. It's how you take the information and use it in your life. But we teach things like critical thinking, ethics, social responsibility, many of the things that many young black men fail to learn growing up because of some environmental things like Tony was speaking of, but also because in many poor urban neighborhoods, there's just not anybody teaching those things. It's more of a survival mode. So we look at reentry as a cultural change, as a historical change, as a reforming cognition, and then transforming that into behavior patterns. And that's not something that happens overnight. I mean, we don't think that our 15-week course is going to radically alter your life at that point in time. And when we give you a certificate, you're a changed person. But we do hope that it starts some seeds germinating that's going to make you get in a situation and think, hold on, I have alternate decisions here. I don't have to do the same thing I've always done. And let me step back from the situation and think. And so it's a process, like a lot of the things that we, you know, discuss and believe in and push forward. Just like we don't believe that prisons are going to be abolished overnight, we don't believe we're going to change a person's life overnight. But you have to strive, you have to push, you have to make that effort, or it's never going to happen.
I have two questions. One is, since maybe 2000, there's been a lot of cop shows on TV, what it's like living in jail on TV. do either or both of those help or make it more difficult to do what you're trying to, the changes that you're trying to make? The second question is, do you work with restorative justice programs? We have one here in Lancaster County, and I just heard a speaker about a month ago, and she said the record of having juveniles go to restorative justice, it's like 85 to 90% they get out of crime. And I just wondered if your program dovetails or works with them.
I'll speak to restorative justice. You can do cop shows in prison. Personally, I never watched cop shows in prison. It was against my religion. In terms of the restorative justice, early when I came home, I was working for Goodwill Industries, and they had this great program, and they taught anger management, and I went through it because I had a lot of repressed anger. Imagine that. And there was this guy who taught the program, and he was a trained mediator, and I really liked him, and our conversations were like fantastic. I mean, he really helped me a lot. And I thought to myself, I can do what you do, you know? And so I asked him about it, and they arranged for me to go to LaSalle University and take a mediation course. And I started working with the Good Shepherd Mediation Program in Germantown, Pennsylvania. And they have a wonderful restorative justice program. 3 Saturdays a month, we have from 15 to 20 kids who come from the Philadelphia court system. And in conjunction with the court-mandated things they have to do, they have drug testing, they can write essays, they have to do community service work, which might range from 25 to 100 hours. But the last thing they have to do is they have to attend our one-day seminars, like a 8-hour seminar. And once they finish that, they go back to the judge, and he signs off on them. If they stay out of trouble for 90 days, then they have a clean record. So these are first offenders who the records are wiped clean, and they have a second chance at life. And that's very important, you know, because I was like in my late teens when I got my first offense. And once that's on your record, it's like a downhill, you know. So for kids to have that opportunity is extremely wonderful. It's a wonderful program. It's an underfunded program. And strangely enough, last year they were talking about discontinuing the program and taking the funding somewhere else, which is crazy. Just like in the movie, when Angus Love was talking about how wonderful they were doing with that program, and the city took the money and wanted to give it to employers as a tax incentive to hire ex-offenders, and that doesn't happen. You know, our job specialist goes out to talk to employers, you know, and very few employers think that the money they're going to get as a tax incentive is worth hiring ex-offenders. It's a dumbass idea to take that money from a successful program and to shift it there. But that's what happens. But in answer to your question, I think restorative justice is a wonderful concept, and there should be more programs like that. You want to speak to the cop shows?
No, that's sacrilegious. You can't watch cop shows in jail.
But they do. I mean, some guys do. You know, Cops is a very popular program. You'd be surprised on how many cell blocks guys will watch cop shows. And some guys try to say, they're going to say, they'll watch the CSI. I'm trying to get tips, so when I do another crime, I don't mess up. But, you know, I don't understand. How can you sit in a cell block, watch a cop show, and root for the cops? Are you retarded?
As far as restorative justice, I mean, I don't know if there are a whole lot of those programs out in Philly, but what our organization do, we work with young people that's charged with adults, and we go into the Philadelphia adult jails and do art and poetry workshops every weekend. And then we work with young people while they're in, and when they come out, we employ them.